Today we'd like to talk about a very special person, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, also known as Bala Sulam, the author of the ladder. We'll try to understand who was he, what did he do, and most important, what is his relevance for our life here today. Tal, take it away. Yeah, today we're going to talk about someone very special, very essential for each and every one of us, and it's a wonder that we never heard about him. I, as a secular person, never heard about him during my years in school and the university, kind of like the wisdom of Kabbalah itself, which was always hidden. And today I understand that it's a very important part of my history as a Jewish person, as an Israeli, and I think that it's very important for everyone. So today we'd like to hear about that part of our identity. A person who did so much, and also we have to say that he is a pretty unusual person, that he's not the image that comes to mind when we talk about a rabbi or a religious person. He also had a very broad social agenda, and he used to meet with public figures. He met with Ben Gurion, who was prime minister back then, and Ben Gurion says that even though that I wanted to talk to him about Kabbalah, Bala Sulam wanted to talk to me about socialism. And so there are many very interesting things that it's good for us to know. And we'd like to ask you, as a person who really knows the nature of Kabbalists, who was Bala Sulam really? And why is it so important for all of us to know him? I am the student of the Rabash, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Alevi Ashlag, Bala Sulam's elder son. And the Rabash knew a lot about all the Kabbalists throughout all generations, and also about different Hasidic leaders in Eastern Europe, down to the smallest details. But it was very hard to get it out of him. He liked to talk about, suppose we spent many hours traveling, and we talked a bit about inner work, and also about different things in general, about the order of the work in our group and so on. And when I asked them about different pieces of information, let's call it that way, about the life of Kabbalists, he didn't really answer. And especially if I asked him about Bala Sulam and about himself, he didn't really want to talk about it. It's like, it's not important. From what I know, and there was a lot written about it, and to this day it's being researched, I'm not a historian. He actually taught me not to relate to the person himself. When we talk about, suppose, musical compositions or writers, then it's important to us, what did that person go through in life? What kind of an environment did he grow in? His parents, his friends, where did he study? Oh, where did he study is maybe also important in this case, but in general, what kind of environment was it, and what times were these? In the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's less important, because a Kabbalist lives in a different world, in the upper world, even though that he's with us in body. And therefore, we won't be able to research his order of life, because he's on a level that we can't say anything about. So let's divide the life of a Kabbalist into two levels, the level of this world and the level of the upper world. On the level of this world, Bala Sulam was born in the end of the 19th century, 1895, I think, in Poland. And it was in Warsaw. Warsaw was a very Jewish city back then. There were millions of Jews there. He was very special as a student. At a young age, he already became a judge in Warsaw, which back then was a very respectable place because Warsaw was full of Orthodox Jews, and he became a judge and a teacher, and in short, when he was still very young. At the age of 21, I think, his first son was born because he got married more or less at the age of 18, and at the age of 20, 21, his first son was born in 1906. His firstborn child, which is my teacher, and his rabbi that he studied with, that Bala Sulam studied with, was called the Rabbi of Pursov. It's a small place at the outskirts of Warsaw. And he himself did study the wisdom of Kabbalah, but he didn't teach it, but he studied it for himself. And the way Rabash told me about it is that what happened was that Bala Sulam, when he was still young, he came to his rabbi, the rabbi from Pursov, and while he was waiting for him in his room, the rabbi was in some other place until he came back. He started looking at his library, and suddenly in his library he sees that there's a book that he doesn't know at all. It was the book Etz Chaim, the Tree of Life, by the Ari. And he took it, and he opened it and started reading, and he was amazed that the questions that he is asking are those very questions that appear in the book, and everything is explained so simply and nicely in a way that it's possible to understand. And he started reading. He lost track of time, and suddenly the Rebbe from Pursov comes in. He even yelled at him, "Why do you take books that don't belong to you? Put it back." But he already knew what he had to know. And he asked what he asked. He got some answer from his rabbi, and he left. And after many efforts, he found that book, and he started studying, and then he found other books about the wisdom of Kabbalah. And then he came back to the rabbi from Pursov and opens his heart and says that he's studying and that he can't be without, and he's really asking him to teach him. And the Rabash says that he was about 6 or 7, or even a bit later. He was probably even a bit closer to 10 or 11. And he says that this one time Dad came back home from his rabbi, the rabbi of Pursov, and he laid back on the sofa from the long way, and he said, "That's it. I have to search for another teacher. This teacher is no longer enough for me." And then he decided that probably he has to go to Israel. I think that this was around 1916, 17, around those years. And then he started getting organized. He also started organizing other Jews in Warsaw so they'll go together with him. These were people that were connected to him. And all in all, he thought that all the Jews have to move to Israel. This was in contradiction to the general opinion of the Orthodox public, and there are also such in the US that never come to Israel and so on. So there were many such. He organized about 300 families that wanted to go with him to Israel. They even ordered modular homes in Scandinavia. And when it became known to the Orthodox rabbis in Warsaw, even though that he was one of them, they boycotted him.